Hello, and welcome to another edition of Facebook Live from the campus of Texas Christian University. My name is Heath Einstein. I'm Dean of Admission at TCU, and you are looking live at the Office of Admission. This is where all of the magic takes place. So I'm excited to be with you tonight. I have some wonderful guests joining me this evening, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves in a few minutes. But I just want to say hello. We have so many people already who are joining us from all over the place. So Parisa from Louisiana, and George from Connecticut, and IE from Costa Rica. Buenas noches. Banks from here in North Texas. We've got Ethan from St. Louis and John from Orange County. That's where I am from. So good to see you. And all of the other people who are joining us from all over the globe. It's wonderful to be with you. As with all of our admission programs, we like to start with a land acknowledgement because we are in a really sacred space. So we respectfully acknowledge all Native peoples who have lived here since time immemorial. And we especially acknowledge and pay tribute to the Wichita and affiliated tribes upon whose ancestral homeland TCU is located. And so the next time you are on campus, if you have an opportunity, I would encourage you to check out the monument dedicated to the Wichita and affiliated tribes. It's right between Reed Hall and Jarvis Hall, centrally located on our campus. Okay, tonight we have a really, really fun program. And the topic is global citizenship. And we're going to approach this in a couple of different ways. But I want you to start throwing your questions into the chat now about what global citizenship might mean, whether it has to do with international admissions and international students being on our campus, or global citizenship for all of our students and how that manifests as a TCU student in the classroom, outside the classroom, outside of Fort Worth. So there are several different directions that you can go. So go ahead and pop your questions into that chat now. We're going to try to get to as many of them as possible. If you've been with us before, and we've been doing this now for like 3 years, I think, you know that this is unscripted. I don't know how the next 57 minutes are going to unfold. I don't know how the next 57 seconds are going to unfold. We just fly by the seat of our pants here. So go ahead and pop in those questions. We're going to try to get to as many of them as possible. And if we happen to veer into other areas of the admission process, that's okay. We know that that would be natural at this time of year, particularly if you are a senior in high school or the parent or guardian of a senior in high school. We just passed our February 1st early decision round 2 and regular decision deadlines. So essentially everybody who will apply to TCU in this admission cycle for first year admission has now submitted their application for admission. And we are busy here in the Office of Admission, reading files with the goal of getting decisions out here in the next month to month and a half. So lots to do here. A couple of folks who are working behind the scenes to make all of this happen. I want to acknowledge them. Amy Peterson from TCU's Marketing and Communication Division, Rob Berline, who works in alumni relations, and the inimitable Liz Rainwater here in the Office of Admission. All of them are helping this go very smoothly, or hopefully very smoothly. Okay, now I would love for our guests to introduce themselves and just tell us who you are, how long you've been at TCU, and what your role is here and how it pertains to global citizenship at TCU. So I'm going to start with my colleague and friend, Karen Scott, who is just a few feet away from me in the office. So hi, Karen. Good evening.
Hi, Heath. Nice to be working with you this evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Scott, and I serve as Director of International Admission here at TCU. I've been in the Office of Admission for 39 years, and have been in this role for over 25. So it's been a super rewarding career. I have the privilege of working with all of our international applicants, plus any U.S. citizens who live outside the country. I've loved working with the global population. I do travel quite a bit internationally. I've it's very similar to what our domestic counselors do, visiting schools throughout the U.S. I do the same. It's just further away. Heath does not trust me to stay close to home, so he's a little far away. And so, in my travels, of course, I'm gonna try to show you my office. I'm not going to show you my messy desk, but I've got souvenirs from all around the world that I've collected. And you all saw my messy desk. Anyway, but just give you a glimpse of where I work. And that's me. And I am a TCU alum.
Excellent. Next, I'd love to introduce Dr. Tracy Runstrom. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Heath, and hi, all you future frogs out there. I am also a proud TCU alum, originally from Kearney, Nebraska, but Fort Worth has been my home for a long, long time now. I have been working at TCU for 24 years now, and the majority of my career was in TCU Global, which is our Center for Study Abroad and Global Citizenship type programs. And so I'll be excited to answer your questions about study abroad opportunities, semester and short-term programs, and a program that I lead called the Global Scholars Program, which focuses on building your skills and competencies over 4 years in global and intercultural competencies. So that's one of my signature programs. I recently moved into the Honors College, the John V. Roach Honors College, and my role there is the Director of Nationally Competitive Scholarships. And so what I'm doing in this role is helping students who are interested in pursuing those prestigious postgraduate awards like Fulbright, Rhodes, Marshall, other competitive scholarships like that, which often are take place abroad. Opportunities to teach English or do graduate studies or research abroad. I also work with a few scholarships and fellowships that are for graduate studies in the United States, like the Truman Award, which focuses on public policy development. And then I also teach in the Honors College. I teach global citizenship and cultural awareness courses, and lead an annual study abroad program focused on global citizenship. And this year we're going to Sicily to study global citizenship and migration at the heart of the Mediterranean, which has seen migration over millennia. So that's a bit about me.
Do you need anyone to assist in chaperoning that trip?
I always do.
All right.
But, I don't think the university allows me to bring anyone else except my co-professors.
All right, fine.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way for you sometime.
Okay. Even though I know that Kearney, Nebraska is not spelled the way it sounds.
That's right.
So I'm a smart person. Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Joshua Kai, welcome. And could you introduce yourself to our lovely audience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Joshua Kai. I'm the Director for International Services Office. I've been at TCU for a little over a year, but I've been in international services for over 10 years. And our office helps with students and scholars maintain their immigration status while they're here at TCU, mainly for the F and J visas. We also help provide a series and a variety of programs that help with cultural adaptation and also with academic needs as well as needed. And we're a big advocate for international students in general.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to start with, we've used this term already, I think several of us, global citizenship. And I think that's important to understand sort of what that means. First of all, the mission of TCU is to educate individuals to think and act as ethical leaders and responsible citizens in the global community. So embedded into the DNA of the university is this idea of global citizenship. So Tracy, I'm wondering if I can toss it to you first to help parse that language a little bit. What does it mean for a TCU student to be a global citizen?
Absolutely. I love talking about this. So I like to think of the idea of citizenship, as a political scientist would say, citizenship is rights and responsibilities. And so I think what we are doing at TCU is thinking about what rights do we have as we engage in the world? What are the human rights, for example, that we want to protect around the world? And then what are our responsibilities to others around the world? And I think that's really exciting to engage with, because that takes place even on a local level, but it is also thinking more broadly, and of course can include when our students study abroad. What does it mean to engage respectfully with their communities, to have responsibility towards the communities where they engage, the people that they're meeting, the residents that they're living among, the other classmates that they're learning from. And then what do they want to bring back to the TCU community, to the Fort Worth community, to wherever they end up living, to continue to have that engagement, that rich engagement with the world. And I think, as I said, that engagement is really thinking about, if I have the privilege of living on this planet, if I have the privilege of being able to travel, if I have those kinds of rights given to me, as well as other embedded human rights, what are the responsibilities then that I owe to others? And by extension, what does it mean then to live in a cooperative world where we can take into account diversity of opinions, where we can work collaboratively to solve big wicked issues, and to truly care about other people?
Well, speaking of diversity, I think TCU has a far more diverse campus than people might assume about us. And you can see that from just some of the basic statistics about TCU, where our students are coming from. Our students literally come from all 50 states. They come from dozens of countries outside the US. And so, so first of all, Karen, I'm interested to hear from you about the recruitment of students from outside the United States. How do we go about that? How do we decide where to travel? And maybe how's that changed over the years? You've been, as you mentioned, you've been recruiting internationally for a couple of decades. How does it look in 2024 compared to when you were starting to travel internationally?
Yeah, interesting question. It has shifted over the years. Part of that is based on world economies. I know some countries, I think of used to be our number one country. They had a slump in the economy. Then students stopped coming to the U.S. in as great of numbers. So we see shifts because of world economies. There's a lot of data that we use here in admissions. It's a pretty sophisticated operation that guides us in determining where to go. So some of it is based on countries that send the most students to the United States, but it also may be based on our alumni market and where where the prospects are, where we've currently gotten applications. For instance, take places like Panama, for example. We have a huge alumni base of very loyal, rabid fans there. And TCU is quite well known there. We spend a good amount of time there because of that interest. And sometimes I travel by myself in places like that where we have a good following. Other places where we're not as well known, for instance, China. China used to be our number one population. That's dropped off. We're trying to get that back. And I'll be going with a group of 15 other universities where maybe I alone couldn't draw the attention of students, but maybe as a group we can. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about how we go about deciding where to travel.
Thanks, Karen. And Joshua, I'm curious from your perspective, once we have all of these students on campus that who Karen and team have worked so assiduously to enroll. And we talked about how diverse our student body is. How does that play out on campus for our international students? What kinds of services are provided to them when they're here? And then how are those students making connections not only with each other, but to American students as well?
Sure. So there's a few different ways students are connected. We have quite a variety of events that we host and collaborate with other departments as well, where we invite both international and domestic students so that they can mix. And in addition to that, there's a variety of different student organizations that we work with and collaborate with. In fact, a lot of them we sponsor as well to promote different cultural events throughout campus. We also do once a month what's called cultural cuisine, where we would showcase a different cuisine to the entire campus, really, so that the different foods can be introduced to different individuals as well. I also see our international students as educators in general across campus. They come and they bring different types of background, different types of culture and knowledge, and through them sharing with other people, it creates and promotes understanding and collaboration and just in general, a more accepting environment.
That's wonderful. And Joshua, who are the folks responsible for creating those programs? Are they student run entirely? Is that through your office where that collaboration with other offices take place? Like, how does this all happen?
So it varies, right? There are programs that are hosted by other departments that we're part of. There are programs are ran through the student organizations that we help sponsor and also collaborate with. And then there are quite a few events that we ourselves run. For example, our office would run a series of American holiday events where students can experience the American holiday, right? Like Halloween, Easter, right? And so forth. So they can understand what the different holidays are and why we celebrate them, and vice versa, right? And we would run different cultural events. So coming up this Friday, actually, we have a Lunar New Year event, showcasing a different type of New Year, right?
Nice. Okay, we're going to pause here for a second. As has become the custom on these Facebook Live events, we're going to move into a dad joke. Okay, so I don't know if you are all prepared for this, but you got to get ready. So here we go. And there is a prize, and the prize is called pride. Okay, so that is what you are playing for here. Why are elevator jokes so classic and good? Why are elevator jokes so classic and good? Okay, we're going to give you 5 seconds. Are you typing? Is someone typing in to try to look this up?
Yeah. Can I do that?
No, that is not allowed.
Okay.
The answer is because they work on many levels. They work on many levels. Yes. Okay.
I was going to say because they give you a lift.
Okay.
Oh, that would have been good too.
That okay too?
I will accept that. Yeah. Wonderful. You've earned some pride here. That's great. Okay. Let's get to a question that was asked by a member of our audience. Nancy asks, your mission is so important and so current. How long has it been in place? And can you see the results of your values instilled in your students? I don't know if anyone can answer the how long it's been in place one. I don't know that off the top of my head. So if anyone can chime in on that, that would be great. But especially for Tracy and Joshua, who work so closely with our current students, I'd love for you to also answer the second part of that question.
Yeah. I think it's been in place 15 years.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've been here a dozen years and it was here before I got here. So that could very well be right. Yeah.
That's what I think. So, I appreciate this question because this has been a subject that I've researched quite a bit. I've used a number of different instruments to research this. And my population really has been study abroad students. I've used quantitative and qualitative approaches. to look at this. And so how do I see the results instilled in the students? I think that the two pieces that I see is a growth in empathy with students, where there's a broadening of their understanding of what different people's lived experiences are, and a sense of understanding that there's not a right or a wrong way anymore. There's just different ways. And so I've been trained to my way because I've been in my culture, but in stepping out of my culture and being exposed to others and really positive encounters when they go abroad, they become really empathetic to other lived experiences, and the idea that there's lots of ways to have happy lives, productive lives, not just an American dream, but the Japanese dream for a good life and things like that. So that's the primary thing I see. And then I think there is across the board a curiosity in the world. And so that's what I'm seeing right now in my space as director of competitive scholarships. I'm seeing students who didn't necessarily go abroad in their undergraduate degree or undergraduate years, but through coursework and through meeting their international student peers and things like that, they're really hungry for it. Give me that opportunity still to get abroad and to engage. And so I'm really excited with the students that I'm working with now who are applying for Fulbrights and other opportunities to do post-graduation or graduate work abroad. So it's the empathy and curiosity is what I see.
Yeah. Joshua, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, what we're seeing, how we see those values instilled here in our students.
Sure. So from my point of view, and what I've seen is the growth of students in general from when they come until they graduate. It's always very fun and interesting and also amazing to see how individuals grow, right? They come to understand that things happen, and sometimes it's not because of racism or really anything along those lines, right? It's just there's misunderstandings. There's sometimes people don't understand other cultures. And so a lot of students have grown to be able to explain their cultures, explain their background, explain why certain things are certain ways. Whereas in certain situations, it can be seen as rude or, unaccepting. It promotes a lot more understanding, right? And you can see that among the students, both domestic, international, right? Even during our events, you can see students supporting each other and really, truly wanting to understand and have an interest in learning about the different cultures and background. And it becomes this really amazing, diverse place.
Excellent. Tracy, you mentioned a couple of times, you've mentioned studying abroad. And that has become, of course, quite popular on college campuses or among college students all over. But about 40% of TCU students will study abroad. And I'm wondering about maybe what you have witnessed over the course of your time here, shifts in patterns of studying abroad or attitudes towards studying abroad, or maybe the types of programs that we're offering for students to have that global experience. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really excited to see that in my time here, we've really grown in all ways. One in particular is the number of students going abroad for a full semester. And what has made this accessible is the number of colleges, schools, deans, etc., that value it as well, and are giving students the course credit they need to stay on track. And so the students themselves and the colleges themselves are saying, yes, we want our science majors to go abroad. We want our business majors. We want our college of communication majors. We want our nursing and healthcare science majors to go abroad, and are really working to design curriculums or to approve courses so that students can stay on track with their degree and still get to spend that full semester abroad, which is really enriching. Students are braver about going. They're going with their friends, which helps but they're still venturing out and doing these experiences themselves. So that's the one category that I see growing. And then the other, in terms of our short-term programs, is again just the variety of approaches that our professors are taking in teaching courses abroad, and really being well-rounded about it. I mean, you might be taking a theater class in London, but you're also getting this other enriching experience that the professors are pulling in, that's teaching you not just about the theater, but about the London experience, the British experience. And so I see a lot more of that, those soft skills of intercultural and global competencies being pulled into the programming that we're doing. And then that doesn't even touch on all the things that are non-academic, but that still go abroad. And so we're really seeing a growth in that space too, where opportunities for a spring break excursion within a course, or other kinds of experiences like that, where students are getting a chance to go abroad, and not necessarily for credit, but they're still getting that enriching cultural experience.
Wonderful. Tracy, could you briefly also talk through maybe what options students have, like describe our in programs and then affiliated programs?
Yes, thanks. So we have what are called our signature TCU in programs. And these are 6 programs in Europe and 1 in Stellenbosch, South Africa. And it's growing. There'll be some more coming out soon. And what this program offers, or what this style offers, is a full semester that's a bit of a hybrid, because you're going with other TCU students, and TCU is arranging the housing and some cultural activities and things like that. And then you're integrating into a college campus, which teaches in English, so students don't need a foreign language. But then you're getting that experience to interact with classmates from your host culture, or other opportunities to join clubs and things like that. And so we find this works really well for a lot of our TCU students who appreciate the connection this provides to TCU, and the bit of oversight that the TCU is able to provide, and the connection of going with some friends, which makes it feel a little bit less intimidating, and then still having the local experience. In addition to that, to round out other places around the world and other disciplines that students might have interest in, we have what are called our approved list of programs. And this allows our students to go to elsewhere outside of Europe, to go to Asia, parts of Africa, South America, and Australia, New Zealand as well. And so then they're getting another range of courses available. What I think is so exciting about TCU is that all of our coursework counts as TCU credit, not transfer work, which is something to worry about down the line, but it's still important to say to y'all right now. We have significant financial aid. Students can use all their scholarships on our programs, and all those things make for a process that allows students to be able to get the study abroad experience for a semester, for these programs that I'm talking about. If that's what they want, they can get the coursework they need. They can have the level of support that feels right for them. They can be in a location that is paired with the kinds of things they want to explore.
Wonderful.
The other type of program, if I can keep going, would be our short-term programs. And I've called them sometimes faculty-led or short-term, but these would be programs like that I alluded to, where as a professor, I'm teaching a course, taking the course I would normally teach on the college campus, and I'm teaching it in the abroad context in a 2 to 3 week intensive experience. And so these are really great too, because they allow students to experientially learn the discipline, the topic of the course, as opposed to sitting in the classroom. So as much as I think I'm a brilliant lecturer, I know the students learn more when they go and see a site firsthand and talk to someone firsthand. And so these are really rich experiences where the students come back and they're like, I learned so much about the course content because I saw it in play. I understand it differently now, and they got the cultural component as well.
I will say that my singular regret from college is that I did not study abroad. I feel like that is a
Yeah.
piece of my journey that is just missing. And I wish I could go back and do it because I had a otherwise fabulous college experience.
Yeah.
And I wish I had done that. So I encourage
In my 20 plus years of working in the field, if I had $1 for every time someone told me that,
Yeah.
I could have retired from TCU a while ago. It is the number one thing I hear when I tell people about the work that I do. I wish I had done that in college. I didn't think it was for me. There weren't the range of opportunities available. I thought it was too expensive. And I just love how hard TCU has worked to reduce each of those barriers and really make it a possibility for all of our students.
Well, speaking of reducing barriers, because you mentioned that the financial aid exists for students who want to study abroad, we do have a question from Lily, and I'm going to direct this, Karen, to you, that asks us to please explain what financial sponsorship certification is and how it's done.
Yes. Lily, you are clearly an international student. Thank you for your participation tonight. So for international students, when they apply to TCU, there is an extra step that they have to take to complete their application, and it's called the Financial Sponsorship Certification Form. It's a very simple form. You log into the My TCU portal, and you tell us, if you're going to be on an F1 student visa, and if that's the case, then we ask you to tell us who your financial sponsor is, or sponsors. You can have more than one sponsor. We then send that person an email with a link to their portion of the form, and they have to indicate how much funding per year they are contributing toward your education. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about this lately, because some students will write and they'll say, well, I submitted my form. Why is it still showing as incomplete on the checklist? That's because it's not complete until your sponsor fills out their portion of the form. And again, and this is because in order to bring a student to the US, they have to show that they have appropriate levels of funding. So that's why we have that form in there. We just want to know, do you have some resources? And I don't know if Joshua, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's very complete.
Perfect. Joshua is my boss. He basically tells me, Karen, this is what you have to collect from students.
Well, Joshua, I'm not going to let you go that easily because I do have a follow-up question that one student is asking from. You had talked earlier about programming that exists on campus, and Holly would like to know where on campus these events take place.
So they take place all over, right? But our programs usually take place in the Intercultural Center. So at the TCU campus, there's a building right on the first floor. There's a center that's really open 7 days a week until 10 p.m. that anybody can come in and just study, hang out. There's always snacks and coffee to promote that diverse population and culture that we have. And we run a lot of our events through that Intercultural Center because that's kind of where everybody gathers and just hang out and get to know each other.
And if you have not been to the Intercultural Center, you have to go there. It is one of the best spots on campus, very centrally located, and it is the most colorful place on campus as well. So we love the Intercultural Center. Karen,
I was going to say, we just got an invitation today from one of our students who is in charge of the Amazing Vietnam Experience, which is a really popular festival every year. It draws, hundreds and hundreds of people. And, that event is quite large. And they usually have that in, a ballroom, one of the big ballrooms on campus. Super fun.
Very, very fun indeed. Okay, Tracy, following up on the comments you were making about studying abroad, because I think toward the end when you talked about the some of the other places where our students will go and where your course of study could affect where you're going. K is Galaxy asks, can the different art majors study abroad? And so, not that you necessarily need to know off
Mhm.
the top of your head where our art students go, but can you talk a little bit more about how certain students will go in certain places?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to stay pretty pretty high level and not dig into a lot of details. But when you come to TCU, you'll have general studies, which we call core, and then you'll have major and minor courses. And every semester, you're taking some combination of those. And so sometimes what we see our students do is save back some of their core classes, and they can go anywhere they want in the world to do their political science class and their history class and our general studies. If a student wants to ensure that they're getting major and minor credit, then we do encourage advising as soon as they come in as first year students and then throughout the process until they actually go abroad. And many of these things kind of align with what you think. An art history major is going to find amazing classes in Florence or in London. A science major is going to find, actually, we have a great science program in Stellenbosch, South Africa, particularly for our pre-med students. So there's some things that line up that way. But we also really encourage students to just kind of think broadly about, what do I want to get from a study abroad experience, not just coursework, but what's the experience I want to get, and recognize that every semester you're piecing together and putting together a schedule to get to your end of 4 years. And it's quite different than high school, right? Where this is what you do freshman year, this is what you do sophomore year, et cetera. So in college, there's a bit of a shuffleboard kind of approach. And if you can't get all the art history majors you need in the semester abroad, then you're going to shuffle and do a few more, the semester before you go and the semester you get back, et cetera. So that's what we look at, is the full 4 years. What classes do you need to graduate? What are the easiest ones to find abroad? What are the ones that are going to make the most sense to take in the location? And sometimes, like I said, the major makes sense in a certain location because you get the added value of the site enhancement. But not everyone needs to find a location for a major. Is that clear enough?
I think so.
Without
Yeah.
going into a lot of detail.
Okay, Risen has asked, I have not seen any Native American programs or groups. Does your school offer such student-run programs? I don't know if anyone here feels particularly comfortable responding to that. I know we absolutely have our Native and Indigenous Student Association, which puts on programming. We have our incredible Native American and Indigenous Peoples Day Symposium that happens every year. It's happened for the last 7 years. We have incredible speakers who come to campus and talk about Native communities here locally and more broadly. One of our amazing Native students, Haley Chiariello, was in my office yesterday talking about opportunities for Native students. So there definitely is a lot happening here. I'm not sure if anyone else on the screen has anything to add to that.
I will say one of my colleagues in honors, Wendy Sierra, is a specialist in this as well as game theory, which is their other course that she teaches. She is, I actually don't remember what nation she's a citizen of, but I know that she has some advocacy in that area and has supported students in some student groups, but I don't know off the top of my head.
And she's done really cool stuff that combines those areas, native peoples in games.
Yes.
She's designed, which is really cool, showcasing. Yeah. Okay, Faith asks, I'm going to give this to you, Karen. From what Karen Scott said, is admission primarily based on the area where alumni are majorly based and where TCU is well known around the world? So are we only looking for students where we have alumni, or are we looking for students from all over the place?
From all over, Heath. Thank you, Faith, for that question. No. And in fact, those might be areas where we travel more frequently just because there's more student interest, but we actively seek students who are from different places. I was making a case for a student the other day, and I won't say where she was from, but one of the things I was sharing with the admissions committee is we have exactly one student from that country at TCU. I would love more. And so we really try very hard to diversify the international population. So yeah, that's what makes this place interesting, and it used to be, we had a much smaller number of countries and a more homogenous group of international students. And it's not like that anymore. They come from all walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, every continent, not Antarctica, but yeah.
That's great. Okay, time for another dad joke. You guys ready? It doesn't matter if you're ready. I'm going to ask it anyway. How can you tell that it's a dogwood tree? How can you tell that a tree is a dogwood tree? Liz got it right. It's by the bark. Very good. Very good, Liz. All right. On to the next question. Joshua, I'm going to ask this of you. Ramon says, hi, everyone. When do I-20 applications take place and dorm selection for freshmen? So why don't you respond to the I-20 question?
Sure, and Karen can probably add to this. I think for this year, we're probably planning to open applications pretty soon, most likely in March. So okay. We would start in March and then process all the way through.
Yeah. Actually, I did want to add one point. We are still finalizing our new financial statement and instructions on what we need from the bank and the employer. And again, this is unique to international students. U.S. citizens don't go through this process, but international students have to have an interview at the U.S. Embassy in their country to show that, I'm a bona fide student and, please grant me a visa. And so temporarily, we are pausing on this process while we're finishing the new financial statement. But very soon, once we launch that new financial statement, you'll see on the My TCU portal that there is a link to an immigration documentation form, and we'll send you a message when that goes live, so you'll know. So if you are a deposited student, we are going to ask you to fill out that form and you upload all the necessary financial documents to it. So you probably can't see that at the moment unless you did fill it out in the brief period of time when it was open, but we took it back down now. But coming very soon.
And for the second part of your question, Ramon, students will complete the housing questionnaire anytime between May 1 and June 1. So once you submit your commitment deposit, which is due by May 1, then after that, we're going to open up the housing form that everybody will fill out, and then you'll get your housing assignment in June, at a later time in June. That's when they will start to roll those out. Okay, we've talked about international students being at TCU. We've talked about studying abroad, so students, domestic and international, choosing to study outside the United States. We've talked about some of the student programs that happen here, but what about some of the other ways that we can internationalize this campus? And for example, we have incredible speakers who come to TCU. Over the years, some really notable personalities have graced our campus with their presence. And I'm wondering if, Tracy, you might take the first stab at talking about how important this is for our students to be able to experience internationalization in this sort of way?
Yeah, absolutely. We think about the learning experience happening all throughout your day, all throughout your 4 college years at TCU. And so your time in the classroom is just a small part of the learning experience. We know so much learning comes from the interaction with your peers, the groups that you join, but also being able to bring in amazing speakers is such a hallmark of TCU. I remember my first year as a freshman and hearing the president of Mexico speak back then and just being so inspired myself. So these events take place often in the evening in our ballrooms, and students are invited to come. These things are always free, no cost involved. And what this does is it really, allows you to hear from someone, applying their learning, working in the world, engaged in global problem solving, and really be inspired. And I just can't think of any other format where you get the opportunity to sit feet away from an inspirational person and hear them speak about these important things, have the opportunity to submit questions to them, and then the next day to go to your class with your professors and classmates who hopefully attended too, and talk about it in the context of the class you're taking, or in the context of world events, etc. Amal Clooney this year was phenomenal, an amazing opportunity. And Vicente Fox, and I lost track of some of the others that were up there. I just think it's phenomenal that we can do that at TCU and give you the opportunity to really hear these things and process and talk about it afterwards.
Joshua, for our international students who come to TCU, what are some of the common concerns or challenges that you see those students face maybe in their first month or two here, adjusting to a new culture, a new country?
Yeah, so for international students, depending on their background, a lot of times we do see, just in general, students may struggle with adapting to the American education system, right? There's a lot more freedom. In fact, certain countries even have curfews, right, where students have to return back to their dorm at a certain time. So there's some confusion with that, right? And because of the freedom here, sometimes students can get lost in terms of what courses to take when they just do, go after. But luckily, we have very good academic support as well. Student assigned academic advisors, as well as different support from student success, dean of students that will work with each student individually to ensure that they get the proper education and needs that they need.
Great, thank you so much. Karen, I'm going to ask this question of you. Ulrike Gutierrez asks, what kind of scholarship can an international student, now a U.S. resident, have? He graduated from a high school outside the United States. So it would be helpful, I think, to answer, yes, that specific question, but generally speaking, how we go about scholarships for international students.
Yeah. And I'm thinking what Enrique was getting at was maybe like, how do we decide who gets a scholarship when the grading scale may be very different? And so we have resources that we use that are developed by experts in the field, where we can basically convert your country's GPA to a GPA in the U.S. And for a lot of countries where we get many applications from every year, I can do that from memory. I don't have to look up to see what constitutes an A in Vietnam or an A in Panama. But we do have those resources. And so, once we kind of convert the GPA, then, essentially international students can qualify, or someone who studied abroad, they qualify for the same kinds of academic scholarships as anyone. Now, the only thing I will mention is that, school systems in other countries are different. And so you may be in a country where they don't have AP classes. So you don't get the same, strength of curriculum bonus, if you will. And so, or some countries we know notoriously are just very harsh graders. And so we do make some judgment calls there so that we're not disadvantaging someone, who studied outside of the US. I hope that answers your question. But there's only one set of academic scholarships, whether you're a first year or a transfer, whether you're from the US or, the Philippines. The criteria are, what you have to do to qualify is no different. And did you ask about financial aid as well?
No, but you go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sure people want to know about that for sure.
Yes. So if you are an international student, know that we do have financial aid available. There's a form called the CSS profile that you need to fill out so that we can consider you for need-based financial aid. That gives us an assessment of your family's financial situation. And if there is demonstrated need, then we can potentially award you some financial aid and maybe the academic scholarship as well. We can give up to the value of full tuition, which for next year is going to be a little over $61,000. But when I say full tuition, that doesn't cover everything. That's just the cost of going to classes. And so for international students, we don't offer any funding beyond that for your living expenses, health insurance, and so on. So you do have to have resources of at least $25,000 US per year in order to realistically attend TCU. And of course, potentially, most students have to contribute more than that, but that's the base level, minimum family contribution.
Great. Thank you so much for that explanation. We have had a couple of more questions about studying abroad. So Tracy, I'm going to throw them to you. One is, Ethan asks, is it possible for students with more rigorous courses, such as pre-med students, to study abroad? So let's start with that, and then I would want to sort of expand that, which is if you've got a fairly structured set of coursework that you're going to have to do, like what's the best step for a student who knows coming into TCU they're going to want to study abroad? What should they do right away?
Yes, you should talk to your academic advisor in your major department right away and let them know that you want to study abroad. So in the health sciences, in Harris College, they have created a curriculum plan for each of their majors: nursing, kinesiology, social work, etc., and said, here's how you'll get your coursework done. Here's the semester to go abroad. It's all laid out for you because there's a lot of rigor, especially with the nursing clinicals and things like that. So there's that sort of lane where the major has already figured it out for you. Just tell them when you come in as a first year student that you want to study abroad, and then they'll help you organize your classes to make that work. Then the other field that we see that has the rigor and scaffolding, you have to take courses in a certain order, would be engineering, sciences, pre-med, for example. And yes, we have students do those for a semester study abroad as well. Again, the couple of approaches might be, if you're engineering and you need XYZ engineering course, then we look to one of our English-speaking universities that has strong sciences and engineering and find some equivalent coursework that you can take there. And it's worked for many of our students. For our pre-med students, we often say that they're going in their junior year. In your junior year, you are with TCU's pre-med program taking a biology course of your choice. You're done with your anatomy, physiology, and things like that. And so we've had students go to Australia and do a marine biology course, or as I said, go to South Africa and do biology courses there. Without going into a lot more detail, yes, it's possible. The key is talking to your academic advisor early on and having some flexibility. Our main issue with our pre-med majors, just to say that in particular, is when to take your I apologize, lost the word, your MCAT. Yeah, that's the biggest problem that we see for the students with the pre-med, is also figuring out when they're going to take their MCAT in the midst of all of the study abroad experience too. But we successfully have students all the time study abroad for a semester. So.
And when is the most common time? Isabel asked us, when's the most common time to study abroad?
I saw that come up, and we get that a lot. So we do see the most common time to go for a semester is second semester of junior year. But we see a lot of our students going abroad in their sophomore year as well, for a couple of reasons. They might want to do more of their core general studies courses during that. And so they go during their sophomore year, or, they're starting to do internships and things like that in their junior year. So we're seeing that the sophomore year is kind of popular. I did want to put a plug in, though, and say we also have internships abroad. And that's another double dip kind of thing. So the opportunity to do a professional internship in English and have the abroad experience all wrapped into one has been really, really popular. So we have a summer internship program in Rome, and we have a semester internship opportunity in London.
That's outstanding. Wow. So cool.
And my kids are outside playing with their Nerf guns. I don't know if you're hearing that or if it's just me. I apologize.
Oh, is it like a rapid fire kind of? Yeah. Just very faintly. So you're
okay.
fine.
To know.
Okay, Karen, question for you from Laís Lima Silva from Brazil. My school has closed and I can't get the letters of recommendation. How can I replace them?
Yeah, we will look at each situation uniquely. We need a little more information from you about, like, is the school like permanently closed, like went out of business, or is it just closed for holiday? So that is something that I'm going to ask my colleagues on the back end to save that one for me. I'd like to talk individually to you to find out a little more.
Great. And then one final question before we get to some closing comments. And this is from Non-Win. Kindly let me know if scholarship and financial aid for international students increases yearly in accordance with tuition fee, room and board, or does that stay constant?
Good question. Both. Your academic scholarship remains constant the whole time. If you get a Dean scholarship, which was $27,000 this year, it's going to be $27,000 all 4 years. But the international grant, the financial aid portion of your award, that does increase each year. So if tuition goes up, 5%, then next year the value of your international, the need-based portion of your award, it will also go up for 5%. So as time goes on, your awards don't cover as high of a percentage of tuition, but they still will increase.
Wonderful. Okay. I do want to say to that wonderful Brazilian student who asked that great question about your school closing down, if you could email us at frogworld at tcu.edu, then our international team can research this, follow up with you. That would be really, really helpful. Anybody else who has questions about anything, just generically, not specifically international students, can always email us at frogmail, at tcu.edu. That's frogmail at tcu.edu. And then one final comment I want to make, because we did have a lot of questions come through about where we are in our decision making, in particular for students whose applications were deferred. They applied in our early action round, and they were deferred to our next round, where a student could then choose if they wanted to be considered under early decision plan 2, early decision round 2, or regular decision. We attempt to get students a response at some point in the month of March. We say by April 1st, that's like the hard deadline we give ourselves. Often we will notify students actually a little bit before then, at some point in March. So if you are a student whose application has been deferred, you're probably going to hear back from us sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We don't have a precise date yet that we're ready to announce, but it won't be too much longer. Okay, I want to thank Karen and Joshua and Tracy, my wonderful guests this evening. You've done a fabulous job and helping all of us understand the ways in which global citizenship manifests at TCU. And I hope everyone out there got a lot out of this hour together. We'll be back next month for another edition of Facebook Live. In the meantime, have a great evening and go Frogs.